New Japan Pro Wrestling has just added more matches to their Wrestle Kingdom 15 card, but was it for better or for worse? Fans around the world were intrigued at the thought of Impact.
A nuclear war would not only devastate the region, but might actually be terminal for the species, if indeed it leads to nuclear winter.
Yo, what is going on, guys? It's your boy Tyler Mask, aka Tyler Suplex, aka Tyler Williams, aka, and welcome back to another edition of the Chill Spill podcast. And that is pill spelled with an S, but it's silent, much like the S in Spain, which is where Wrestle Kingdom will be held this year, because this card is painful to look at. Ah, man. Guys, we are here. It is, depending on what day you're listening to this, December the 16th, December the 15th, if you're on Patreon. But guys, we are here. We are live. This is the 25th episode of the Chill Spill podcast. Guys, we've been going for 9 weeks straight. I'll be honest, I've been off and off with this podcast for the better part of 2 years now. This streak continues. And we've made it to 25, which is a quarter of 100. I'm curious. I actually did the math for this, I think a few weeks ago, or maybe a few days ago. And I think I saw that by 2022, if we keep going strong for the next 75 weeks, we will reach episode 100, which would be pretty impressive. Guys, I am here. Thank you all very much for tuning in and supporting your boy as you always do. We have some big things coming up. The top 50 matches of 2020 is coming up next week. I'm really excited about that. We have some more big stuff coming up next week as well, which I am not going to announce here, but you guys will see in the coming days. Just a lot coming into the end of the year, and then we're going to be coming back even stronger in 2021. 2020 was not our year. A lot of shit happened in our personal lives in the wrestling community, and you guys know for me, I had my channel deleted once and then it was put in pending deletion twice. So I've had a very, very shitty year in that matter, but hopefully things will turn around 2021. The vaccine's been starting to get distributed out in the United States. Well, at least I think partially distributed. I don't know if it's entirely distributed just yet. So hopefully all goes well, and by 2021 we'll be allowed to go back to wrestling shows, and we'll get some sense of normalcy. I don't think we're going to get completely back to normal by next year, maybe 2022, but some sense of normalcy by next year. Hopefully mid-year, because that's when I plan to travel again. But outside of all of that, let me give some Patreon shout-outs here. Big shout-outs to our Patreon backers, Liam Version 1, NJPW Fan 10, and Mason Goldberg. And with all that out of the way, I was just talking about how Wrestle Kingdom will be held in Spain, but the S is silent because of how short the match card was. You guys know I did a little bit of a rant on that last week regarding Wrestle Kingdom, the horrible build to the show. And what do you know? We're coming up with Wrestle Kingdom now, and we actually got some more matches added because they realized this is a pretty tiny card. Let's add some more matches. And I can't sit here and say that, honestly, I didn't see any of these matches coming. I mean, a lot of them made sense because they were tournament matches, or they've been matches that have been kind of slowly building up over the last few weeks or last 2 tournaments. But let me go down this card and tell you guys what's the upcoming match card. Now, I'm not going to be doing predictions for this show. I'm going to be doing that at a later episode, perhaps maybe the next episode of the Chill Spill podcast. Not entirely sure, but we're going to be previewing the Wrestle Kingdom 15 match card, at least how it is right here. The match card apparently still in development, but this is the current standings for these cards. So Wrestle Kingdom Night 1 happening on January the 4th, 2021. On this card so far, we have Hiromu Takahashi versus El Fantasma. The winner will be challenging Taiji Shimori on Night 2 of Wrestle Kingdom for the Junior Heavyweight Championship. This match makes the most sense. Hiromu Takahashi winning Best of the Super Juniors 27. Didn't really give a review of BOS Zero World Tag League because I ain't gonna lie, I didn't watch I didn't watch either of them. I did watch the finals of the show. Hiromu versus El Desperado was fucking awesome. You guys should check that match out if you have not already. Definitely one of the better matches of the year. And definitely, I would say, one of the best matches of the month. And then El Fantasma did end up winning the Super J Cup. He is a 2-time winner, back-to-back, winning last year. I believe he went to the finals with Will Ospreay. This year, he went to the finals with ACH. And he made it on, and he won the whole thing. So, El Fantasma, he made his way into this show. He's going to be on his way back to Japan very soon. He's not going to be on the road to Tokyo Dome tour, so I'm assuming that he probably flew out now and is going to be making his way back to Japan at least by the time Wrestle Kingdom is here. But that's our first match confirmed. Also, we'll be having Zack Sabre Jr. and Taichi, the IWGP Tag Team Champions, going up against the Gorillas of Destiny, Tama Tonga and Tongaloa. They are the winners of the World Tag League, and they'll be going up against the champions for the championships, of course. That should be an interesting match, considering that these are two heel factions. You have Suzuki-gun versus the Bullet Club. I'm not going to get my predictions here, but we'll trudge on with another new match confirmed from this show, and one that I made a tweet about, and it sparked some controversy. Hiroshi Tanahashi versus the Great Okan. Yes. Hiroshi Tanahashi, the Ace of Japan, versus the Great Okan. So, when I put out my tweet, I said this is straight disrespect to Tanahashi. And let me just say, first of all, I was half joking when I said that. Like, I was not entirely like, oh my god, I can't believe they booked Tanahashi in this match. Like, no. I was half joking when I said that. And I say half joking because I was laughing at the fact that they actually put Tanahashi in the ring with the Great Okan, who I don't really believe is a fully developed character, and I don't really believe he's a good wrestler. Now, Tanahashi, of course, is one of the greatest of all time, and if anyone can carry the Great Okan to a good match, it would be Tanahashi. But seeing as Tanahashi really hasn't been doing much for much of the year, and then going into Wrestle Kingdom, he's facing the Great Okan in a feud that's really been built up over the course of, one World Tag League? Because Great Okan came in, he started a feud with Okada, joined the Empire, and then we went into the World Tag League, and he brought in Jeff Cobb. I believe his first match with Jeff Cobb joining the Empire was against Tanahashi and Hanare, and that's really been the spark of this feud. And it's not like Tanahashi and Okan have been having a lot of matches since then. They've had that one tag match, and then the World Tag League, they went up against other tag teams. So, constituting a match out of that, I just don't get. I just don't see it. Now, who else have Tanahashi could have faced? And to be honest, I don't know. I guess when you look at it that way, this may have been the only feud that, could have made sense. But even then, it was a match that happened one time. Yes, we're getting matches on the road to Tokyo Dome tour, but that's leading into Wrestle Kingdom. I'm talking about prior to that, prior to the Wrestle Kingdom build. This really didn't have much correlation going into anything Tanahashi was doing or the Great Okan was doing. So that's why I was kind of like, okay, this is an odd match to do. But hey, Tanahashi did face Jay White in his first match back from Excursion. Tanahashi did end up beating Jay White at Wrestle Kingdom 12. I remember that was the first Wrestle Kingdom I watched live, and I still remember, I think I fell asleep during that match. I don't remember, like, I watched the match back twice since then, but I don't remember the match, live. I'm pretty sure I started falling asleep during that stream. I'm pretty sure I fell asleep during that stream. During that match I did. I think it was mainly because I was tired and partially because I was just bored. Like, the match, was not anything special. Jay White was I don't want to say very green, but you could tell he was still trying to find his footing. Great Okan, much in Jay White's spot, is still trying to find his footing. I don't expect him to be the next Jay White or anything, but a match like this could get Tanahashi maybe on track to, getting something. I don't know. I think a lot of us have this notion that Tanahashi's becoming a New Japan dad, like a Yuji Nagata, or a Tomoki Onna, or a Togi Makabe. He's on that path, and he very much could be. Now, from what I've seen in the G1 Climax this year, I don't really think so. But I do agree his days of being the IWGP Heavyweight Champion for months and months and months, I think those days are over. And I think this might be the time he might be putting over talent. And I'll leave it at that because I don't want to get my predictions for this match just yet. And then, of course, the next two are matches we already know of. Kazuchika Okada versus Will Ospreay. This feud has really just been boiling since the G1 Climax, which was literally 2 months ago, so it hasn't been a feud festering for that long. Will Ospreay likes to think this feud's been something that's been boiling and, building up for years upon end, with Okada and Ospreay being part of chaos, but I don't think anyone else sees it that way. Like, this feud really kickstarted 2 months ago. I have never noticed these little tiny seeds being planted over the course of a few years. Now, yes, you can say, oh, well, Okada and Ospreay have had some matches since 2016, and Okada and Ospreay, they have a friendship, some type of... I don't think it's that deep. Like, when I look at this feud, I don't feel like it is that deep. That, personally, I just don't. So... will the match be great? I'm sure it is. I think Okada is definitely going to put his working boots on for his match. It's Wrestle Kingdom. Okada almost has to put his working boots on. I mean, he's been pretty much skating and, dragging his feet the entire year. You might as well, right? I mean, the only match he woke up for was against Shingo, but that's about it. So we'll see just how great that match is. I won't be surprised if this is someone's, match of the year for 2021, but it's Okada at this point. Then the main event of the evening, Tetsuya Naito versus Kota Ibushi for the IWGP Heavyweights and Intercontinental Championship. You guys heard my little rant on the booking of this match. I'm not going to rant on it again. You guys know I'm a huge fan of Ibushi, and Tetsuya Naito won the championship at Wrestle Kingdom. He has not been holding on to it for 12 months. He did lose it to Evil for about a month and a half before winning it back. So there was like a bit of a break period in between. Well, I mean, you know what? While we're here, let's talk about this. Tetsuya Naito won the championship from Okada at Wrestle Kingdom 14, Night 2 on January the 5th. He had one defense in against Kenta at New Beginning, and then it just kind of ended because of COVID. So, about 3-month period until June, he came back. Well, New Japan came back. And then we went into New Japan Cup, and because he was a champion, he wasn't going to wrestle. So then you had about a month and a half where Naito didn't wrestle. Then Dominion came around, and then he lost the title. Like, okay. Bleh. So now you come out of New Japan Cup, and what did they go into after the New Japan Cup? I'm trying to remember here off the top of my head. What was it after the New Japan Cup, Dominion? I don't think they went straight into the G1 Climax. They went into something. Why am I forgetting the New Japan Pro Wrestling schedule here? I mean, can you blame me, though? This has been a very shitty year for New Japan. Well, let me check the NJPW website here, just to give my brain a bit of a refresher. Okay, so they had a New Japan Road Tour that lasted all of what? Oh, yeah, Summer Struggle. So, New Japan Road Tour, Sengoku Lord, Naito was not the champion, but he was, teaming with Hiromu. And then he went into Summer Struggle, and then he won the title back. Cool. Then they went into Power Struggle, and he retained against Evil, who he feuded with for basically the latter half of the year. Really, since, I would say, July, he's been feuding with Evil. So, when you look at this year, and Naito being the champion, this has been like a horrible follow-up for him being the champion. Like, Forasova said it best. Like, Naito being the champion was basically just gravy on top of the mashed potatoes. It was the topic. Naito's peak was winning the championship. Him being the champion didn't really do much. Like, what did we accomplish with Naito being the champion? Yes, we're getting to point B with him versus Ibushi, but no one really had the semblance of that being the final goal. Like, I never got the sense that Naito winning the championship is ultimately building up to Ibushi beating him for it. Like, that, it's a dream scenario in my head, but I never really thought that concrete, this is going to happen. But when you boil down to it, was this the plan? Was the plan to get the title from Naito to Ibushi? I mean, it could have made sense. I mean, 2019 booking, Naito and Ibushi faced off like 3 different times, so you can say that, but you're revisiting it almost a year and a half later, so it's a bit kind of late for that. I don't know, but when I think back on Naito's 2020, I gotta say it was good at best. Really subpar when it comes to him being a champion. I mean, I can't really judge Naito's first reign as the heavyweight champion because I wasn't there for the first 6 months that he was champion before losing it back to Okada 2016. I can't really judge upon that. And then the third reign, in this half of the year has just been kind of I mean, you went back into another tournament, G1 Climax. Yes, he was there. He was existing. But then you also went into the World Tag League, Super J Cup, and the Best of Super Juniors, which he was not involved in once again. So for a lot of this year, Tetsuya Naito was not active. Boil that down. Like, let's sit here and let's talk about that. Tetsuya Naito, though he was a champion, was not active for a lot of this year. So how good of a champion could he have been, in my opinion? Could he have been? I don't think he was that good of a champion. So, yeah, I just wanted to put that out there, see what you guys feel about it. How do you guys perceive Tetsuya Naito in his reign, 2 reigns, since he lost the title to Evil, 2 reigns as IWGP Heavyweight and Intercontinental Champion? Has he done a great job? Was he a good champion? Because I still believe he's losing the title to Ibushi at Wrestle Kingdom. And I know I technically spoiled my prediction, but I gave it already. I still believe Ibushi's beating him. But when Ibushi beats him, when you look back on Naito's reign as champion, did it really have an effect on you as a viewer? Did it have an effect on the company? I feel like it's going to boil down to no. I don't think it really has. But that's Wrestle Kingdom Night 1. Getting into Night 2, you have Taiji Ishimori, the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Champion, defending his title against the winner of Hiromu Takahashi versus El Fantasma. So that's basically a playoff of Night 1. You also have Shingo Takaki defending his never openweight championship against Jeff Cobb. That is a match that got set up, I believe, after Power Struggle. Maybe not even after. I think it was set up during the World Tag League Finals. Like, this just got built up a few days ago, really. So, a little late. They had a match before. I don't remember the match being all that excellent, but it was in 2019. Were they in the same block this? They were in the same block. They were in the same block this year. And I don't remember that match being all that great. So, well, it may have been really good, but I don't remember it being great. So, they had some matches. I'm sure this will be another great match these two men have, especially Shingo. Shingo's also always awesome. Jeff Cobb, he's really been doing his stuff in New Japan. I still believe that his match versus Ishii from G1 Climax this year is one of the best matches I've ever seen him in. But going after that, you have Sonata versus Evil. Talk about a match they have done to death this year. I still remember G1 Climax 29 being super excited to see this match. I wasn't a big fan of Sonata, but I very much was a big fan of Evil. Like, Evil at one point was my favorite member of LIJ before, Shingo came in. Like, when 2018 I started watching New Japan, he was the one guy I'm like, yeah, I like his gimmick. I like his style. It's bruiser heavy. Shingo came in, stole all his fire. He became my 3rd favorite because then Hiromu came back. so it ended up being, well, did Hiromu come back in 2019? No, he didn't. He came back in 2020. So yeah, he was my 2nd favorite. So I'm like, all right, I like Evil. Sonata, I didn't like Sonata. And I thought it was a fairly good match between those two. I think Evil won that match. If I'm correct, Evil won that match. Then you build up to Evil and Sonata and New Japan Cup this year. And you have Evil doing his heel turn, which they built up earlier in the Cup, but, was solidified with him, stomping Sonata in the dick. And now we've seen this match happen 2 different times. It's like, I don't really care. I know Sonata's showing some more personality going after Evil at the World Tag League Finals. Oh my god, he's actually showing anger for once in his life. But, I'm over it. Whatever. And then the main event of Night 2 will in fact be Jay White, the holder of the G1 Climax briefcase, the holder of the challenge rights to the IWGP Heavyweight Championship, will be taking on the winner of Tetsuya Naito versus Kota Ibushi from Night 2 for both the IWGP Heavyweight and Intercontinental Championship. I gave my thoughts on this in the previous podcast. I'm not going to rehash exactly what I said again. But hey, Jay White, main event, good for him. I'm curious to see how a Jay White Tokyo Dome main event is going to look like. Will it live up to the standards of Tokyo Dome Wrestle Kingdom main events of years past? I don't really think so, but Jay White, he's impressed me a lot more than I can say that he has not, so I won't put it past him, but I do have my doubts, not gonna lie. I say all this, and we still do not have Kenta versus Jon Moxley confirmed for this show, which leads me to believe, as Tony Khan said earlier in the month, that Jon Moxley will not be at Wrestle Kingdom 15. So I ask this question once again. Why is he still the IWGP United States Champion if he is not going to defend the title? I have no idea. I don't know why they are adamant on keeping it on this man. But Kenta, I feel so bad for him. Like, Kenta's not even on the card. There's a lot of people not on the card. Ishii's not on the card. Yeah, I mean, I guess Yano doesn't have to be on the card. Ishii's not on the card. Juice isn't on the card. There's a lot of guys missing. And, you know, like I said, they still have some time. They have really 15, 16, 17 more days to build up Wrestle Kingdom. They have 3 more shows, 3 more televised shows, so they don't have that much time. You don't want to add matches after your last 3 shows ended, because that's just horrible booking, but it's New Japan in 2020, so we can't be too surprised about that. Horrible booking. But I made an effort to add some matches to the Wrestle Kingdom card. So I put down at least, like, what, 3-4 matches I would like to see added to this card. These aren't dream matches, per se. These aren't matches I think are going to be, like, you know, 5-star epics. But they're matches to fill up the card, because the card is looking a little skimpy right now. A little skimpy. So I think these matches will add some weight to it. And one of the matches I think should be added to night 1 of Wrestle Kingdom is Yuya Uemura and Yota Tsuji versus Ren Narita and Shota Umino. Or Umino. Umino. I think it's Umino. I should know this. This is my son. But anyway, I think this is going to be a really good match. Especially because you have the added factor of, you know, kind of the, I don't want to say the old guard of the Young Lion system because they're on excursion. I guess their excursion kind of is like dormant because Ren Narita just made his return to the Super J Cup. He made his return back to New Japan Television about a few days ago. So we have him back. Shota Umino, we have no idea where he is. We haven't heard anything about him or heard anything from him. He barely tweets out anything. So we have no updates on him. Apparently, he was in the UK for a few months. But last I remember, if I go to cagematch.net, I believe his last match was actually in the United States. Now, that doesn't mean he didn't fly back to the UK after this show. But I believe his last... Was it? Right? Okay, you obviously did not update it very well. So, we're doing it live, folks. So, please don't mind me if you hear some keyboards typing in the background. I just want to make sure I have my facts straight here. Alright, going to Internet Wrestling Database. No, I was wrong. So, one of the matches he had in the States was for Bar Wrestling. It was Adrian Quest, B-Boy, Phoenix Star, and Zokari versus Chris Bay, Red Narita, Rocky Romero, and Shota Umino. That happened in February. His last match on record was on March 8th. He teamed up with Kyle Fletcher to take on a team of Dan McGee and Mad Kurt. So, Shota Umino last was seen in the UK. Very much so, he could still be in the UK. However, there has been some agreements, I believe some let-ups from Japan and different countries saying that they can get some of their guys back. After all, they got back Juice and Kenta and Jay White for the G1 Climax. I don't see why they can't get back Shota Umino and Narita, right? Don't see why they can't get those guys back. So I would do Shota and Ren Narita versus Yuya and Yota Tsuji. Yota Tsuji and Yuya Uemura. Very much I believe the Young Lions really carrying that division right now. Not that Gabriel Kidd's not good or anything, but Yuya Uemura, Yota Tsuji have been the Taylor ones. They've been there for years, longer than Gabriel Kidd, so they deserve the limelight. I know it's a bit of a slight to Gabriel Kidd to leave him off the card, but like I said, tenureship. Yuya and Yota Tsuji have been there longer. That's what I would do. Who wins? I guess you could go with Yota Tsuji and Yuya Uemura, put the newer Young Lions over. I would say if this were 2020 without COVID to send them on an excursion, but given what's going on right now, I think it's kind of impossible to. So I would say just have them win and then go from there. With Shota and Narita, you could definitely promote them. Definitely put them on the shows more often, Shota and Narita. But I don't know what they're doing with these two, man. Ren Narita's definitely been bulking up too. Like, he looks heavier. And I don't know if it's fatter heavier or bulked up heavier. I gotta look at an earlier shot of him. But I noticed during the Super J Cup, he looked a lot bigger. So, COVID hits you hard, I bet. Getting into my next match that I would fantasy book for Wrestle Kingdom. You have the team of Tomohiro Ishii, Hiroki Goto, and Yoshihashi defending their never openweight 6-man tag team championships against Sho, Juice Robinson, and David Finlay. Now, I know you're asking the question, but Tyler, isn't Show part of Chaos? Why is he teaming with Juice and David Finlay? Well, if you go to the Road to Tokyo Dome match card, Show is teaming up with Juice Robinson, I believe, 2 different times on the show. Juice Robinson and David Finlay are, of course, Sekigun. They're not exclusive to any faction. They could travel if they want to, just like Kota Ibushi and Master Wato. Show is part of Chaos, but I think in this situation, we could definitely see Show doing something with just Juice or Finlay. Just to get them on the card. I would just get them on the card in that sense, at least. It would be a good match. It would get them on the card. You could even have Show, Juice, and David win, but I don't think they're going to. I think Ishii, Yano, and Yoshihashi probably win that match, but anyway. That's all from night 1. Also, night 1, I would crown Kenta as the IWGP United States Champion. Yes, I would straight up do a segment on this show where somebody comes out and hands him this championship to make it mean something, because as the days and the weeks and the months goes on that Jon Moxley is still the champion and does not show up, people forget about this championship, people think it's less relevant, and people don't care about it anymore. So, how do you get people to care about it? Have it show up at the Tokyo Dome. Crown Kenta as the champion and make him be the active champion that us American fans, because this championship represents, what happened there? This championship represents the United States of America. And as a fellow American, I would like my champion to be active. So, yes, Kenta for champion. He's the briefcase holder. He should be getting it first. And from there, on night 2, I would set up Kenta defending his IWGP United States Championship, because he should be defending that title if he's holding it now, versus anybody not named Juice Robinson. Yes, I know Juice Robinson did beat Kenta at G1 Climax. But for Christ's sake, how many fucking times are you going to do Juice versus this guy for the United States Championship at Wrestle Kingdom? We already saw it at Wrestle Kingdom 13. We already saw it at Wrestle Kingdom 14. Do we need to see it again at Wrestle Kingdom 15? Especially because, like, did he beat Cody? Did he beat Cody at Wrestle Kingdom, 13? I want to say that he did. But I don't remember off the top of my head. I want to say that he did. Wrestle Kingdom 14, he lost to Jon Moxley. So I guess you could say, oh, it's Juice's redemption story. Please leave Juice out of this fucking picture. I want to see him go after something else. He could go back to the tag division with David Finlay if he wants to. He can go after the Never Openweight Championship. Imagine Juice versus guys like Goto and Ishii and Shingo. Those matches would kick ass. We've seen all those matches before. But for the championship, those matches would kick ass. I just want to see Juice out of this championship picture. I don't mind Juice as a champion. I just mind Juice as the U.S. championship because it holds him down. It holds him back. He's better than that. And I want to see him do more with him in 2021. And then lastly, I would add Master Wato and Ryusuke Taguchi versus El Desperado and Yoshinobu Kanemaru for the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Tag Team Championships. And now you ask yourself, Tyler, why Master Wato and Ryusuke Taguchi? And I ask you, why the hell not? They're already teaming up on the Road to Tokyo Dome tour. Neither men have anything to do, especially Master Wato, who they've been building up for the last few months, and in the Super J Cup. I mean, best of the Super Juniors. You might as well do something with him. And why not put him in a match with the guy who had a lot of news, a lot of fanfare coming out of BOSJ, El Desperado. Yoshinobu Kanemaru's coming back from injury, so boom, they have something to do. I would do that match. Guys, I'm going to hear your thoughts and your opinions on my additions, and what would you add to the Wrestle Kingdom 15 match card to make that card a little bit more stacked than what it is right now. Getting away from New Japan Pro Wrestling, we get into some Impact Wrestling news. Very rare we cover Impact Wrestling here, but last week we had one of the biggest events of the year for pro wrestling. The AEW World Champion Kenny Omega appeared on Impact Wrestling television. Yes, last week on Dynamite, well, not last week, 2 weeks ago on Dynamite, Kenny Omega and Don Callis walked out as the AEW champion. And as they were walking out, getting ready to go into a van, Alex Marvez stopped them and said, Kenny, can you explain your actions? And Don Callis is like, we'll explain our actions this Tuesday night or next Tuesday night. And Alex Marvez is like, on Tuesday? Dynamite's on Wednesday. And Don Callis is like, yes, on Tuesday nights on Impact Wrestling. And the crowd was just like, oh, and people just were like, I can't believe it. So that set the bar, that got the ball rolling. And the question was, how many people were going to tune in for Impact Wrestling? Were they going to crack 500,000? Were they going to beat out NXT? I think maybe some people were naive to think that. I ain't gonna lie, I was a little bit naive to think they might crack 500,000. Now, the ratings did come out for the show. Impact did pull in 221,000 views on cable TV, which compared to Dynamite and NXT is pretty bad, but compared to their previous ratings, which they normally do 100,000, that's double the views. So that's fantastic for them. They doubled their views from last week. That is great. They also did 55,000 viewers live on Twitch. They were one of the top 5 streamers on Twitch, which is a pretty big platform. So they were doing pretty well for themselves last week. Now, all this came and built up from Kenny Omega, not because of Impact and what they were doing standalone. It was for Kenny Omega, but it did good business for them. Coming into this segment, Kenny Omega and Don Callis were pretty much the closing segment. They were built up all throughout the night. At one point during the night, we had Tony Schiavone and Tony Khan. They were having like this ad, this like old school ad for AEW Dynamite, which I thought was really, really funny, especially because Tony Schiavone had like this, Tony Khan had like this pseudo kind of like heelish persona during this thing, which I, not gonna lie, I thought it was cool. I don't want to see Tony Khan as like some Mr. McMahon type character on AEW television, but if we could get more Tony Khan on Impact Wrestling television with these ads, I wouldn't mind it at all because I liked it. But now let's talk about this segment between Don Callis and Kenny Omega. So I'm watching this on my phone, and they come up. Josh Matthews doing an interview, which I already don't like because Josh Matthews is a horrible commentator. But he gets into the van, and he's asking Kenny Omega and Don Callis these questions. They show up. They have the title present. And Don Callis is in the center. You have Josh Matthews on the left, Kenny Omega on the right. Don Callis takes over most of this interview. He's really boasting about, oh, Kenny Omega, he's this, he's that. You know, when Kenny was a young curly-haired boy, I took guardianship over him, and I looked over him because of his uncle, and his uncle traded me. And if you didn't know about Kenny Omega, this is a good segment for you. If you knew about Kenny Omega and you knew about Don Callis, then this really was a waste of time. Because these guys built up this big, huge announcement happening on Impact Wrestling, and the only semi-big thing that came out of this was that Kenny Omega alluded to being a title collector. That being his new kind of persona, gimmick, adding on to the cleaner character. He would go after, basically, he teased going after the Impact Wrestling Championship. He's defending his Mega Coupe Leon Championship against Laredo Kid at AAA Mania. So he already has 2 titles. Now he wants 3, 4, 5, whatever the case may be. That's his new thing. There was no big announcement here. This was about Kenny Omega, not about AEW, not about Impact Wrestling, not about the greater good. This was about Kenny Omega and Kenny Omega only. So, yeah, I guess it was cool to see Kenny Omega on Impact Wrestling TV, but alright. That's what I came away from this saying. I came out from this saying, alright, I guess you guys swindled me, because after all, they said they had a big announcement coming, and there was no fucking big announcement. So, they swindled us. And then they said on Dynamite, they have a big announcement coming. So I'm like, alright, well, I'm already watching Dynamite, so I might as well just fucking tune in and wait for this announcement to come up. So we get to Dynamite, and they literally give us the same fucking segment. Now, they didn't telecast the segment from Impact Wrestling, but Don Callis and Kenny Omega come out, and not word for word, a lot of us paraphrase, but they almost copied the same promo from Impact Wrestling. If you did not watch Impact Wrestling, which it seems like about 700,000 people from AEW did not watch Impact Wrestling, if you're one of the 700,000 people who did not watch Impact Wrestling, then guess what? You were in for a treat because you got exactly what you missed. There was no big announcement. They basically said the same fucking thing. I got swindled. There was a little piece in here. Somebody asked us a question on the Death of Pro Wrestling podcast, episode 2. If you guys don't know, myself, Joseph Montecillo, and Forrest Silva sat down for the second episode of the Death of Pro Wrestling podcast. We were asked a question regarding Kenny Omega and what we think the direction he should go in as the champion. And I thought it was an interesting bit that we talked about here. I'll splice it in right here as kind of, a bit of a, what's it called? Why am I losing my train of thought as this podcast is going on? Terrible podcast, by the way. As we're going on, fuck it. Yeah, just play the part. Just play the part.
Americans are the worst.
I mean, this is true, but let's move on. All right, the Smark of BD. What does BD mean? What do you think of Kenny Omega possibly winning the world title in 3 major promotions: AEW, AAA, and possibly Impact?
Has it ever been good? Like, has it ever been done well? Like winning, like, oh, I'm the belt collector. I'm going.
I wasn't alive when Ultimo Dragon did it, so I couldn't really tell.
Yeah, but
I was thinking different. That example also.
Well, that was different because most of those titles were like that J Crown, where it's like it was just 7 companies had their titles combined, right? Like it was one thing. So like that's a little different because it was an idea that was shared, and also it wasn't all of their world titles; it was their junior titles in the '90s. Who gives a shit about a junior title? I think this
question is really going to be how they handle it. And when you say they, now you got to talk about all the companies involved. It's not like Kenny Omega is going to take all those titles to AEW. Like, Kenny is a traveling champion for each brand. So, I don't know.
This is literally, he will not be a traveling champion for each brand. And it only does matter what AEW decides to do with it. Because AEW is the biggest company of the 3. So no matter what, they have to defer to how they want to book the AEW champion. And this is an old politics thing that I don't know how much it comes up, but fans talk about it constantly where, Jon Moxley can't lose the United States Championship in New Japan until he loses the AEW title because AEW wouldn't want their champion to lose it. And it's like, if you're holding another championship in another company, you should 100%, like, if you're just being such that person of like, no, you can't lose it. It'll make our company look bad. If you still think like that, you're like a douchebag. And it's like, I shouldn't have to think about what you're doing with your company and your title when I'm trying to book mine. That's why this story sucks. It sucks because all it does is it handcuffs smaller companies to the will and the decisions of the bigger one. And it sucks. It's a terrible creative decision. Now, with the AAA title, they don't care. The Mexican companies don't care about a big championship. It's different. But
it's true. Mexico doesn't really care about belts at all.
And honestly, like something like CMLL has my ideal situation for titles. Just a bunch of them in a bunch of different weight classes. Because that's very familiar to me as a fan of like MMA and boxing. Makes sense to me. Delineate it that way. None of these titles are more important than the other because there's not a mid-card title. It's just, hey, this is your weight class's title. I think that's a great concept. CML doesn't care. So it's whatever. But it works there because it doesn't matter. Kenny doesn't hold the AAA championship and carry it around, and he's not the AAA mega champion. It's just something that you can say to make him seem cooler. But if he wins the Impact championship and shows up on Impact, well, then Impact can't do things because, they can't book the AEW champion to lose. So now Impact is handcuffed to what AEW wants to do. And you can say, Impact is bad or whatever. They should just listen to AEW. But like it's a bad story idea. It looks cool
on
a
paper.
Picture.
It sounds great.
It sounds cool, but the logistics of it suck.
Yeah, go to the comment section of the Impact Wrestling live stream. There was so many divided fans, like, oh, here's the Impact fans. Yeah, I don't like Kenny Omega being over here. Da, 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 da. And they have AEW fans like, oh, Kenny Omega's over here to help you guys. You don't get the right. Like, fans already just are trying to fucking divide themselves about it. And it's like, this is why you can't fucking do shit like this. Exactly why.
Not interested. What's Kenny gonna do in Impact?
No, and he already
a
is
little
doing this bullshit where it's like, oh, Kenny Omega's appearing. Like, if Kenny Omega ain't wrestling, don't fucking talk to me about this shit. Like, I don't. Like, you're trying to get me to watch these other promotions that I already don't watch. That's also the thing that I kind of like. Now you're making me go on my way to watch all this other content.
fine, but it's like the idea of like, oh, you can go over here and watch stuff. It's like, okay, whatever. But like, let's say Kenny wins the belt in Impact. So what? All it does is it makes Kenny look
really
good.
the only thing that's happening here.
It makes Kenny look good. It gives AEW brownie points. Like, oh, they're working with other companies. Good for them. And it gives Impact a boost in viewership. The cost of it is that it creatively sucks. It's boring.
There's just nothing for Kenny to do. Like, there's no real interesting opponents for him in Impact. Like, there's no one in Impact that I'm thinking, wow, they gotta wrestle Kenny Omega. Like, what? Who's their champion right now? Rich Swann? Like, I don't know. It's when was the last time Rich Swann was like getting props for his work? It feels like that's like 5-6 years too late. Also,
in fairness, he could probably be fine. No one watches Impact. He could be great. No one knows.
And it's also kind of odd because it's
true.
like, as soon as Kenny won the title and they started, and it's only been like 1 week going on 2 weeks, so it's too early to say. But as soon as Kenny won the title and he's like, oh, I'm going to this company and then I'm coming back here, it's like, I already started to lose interest a little bit because it's like, this is the AEW championship and we're not getting any storyline based in AEW right now. Like, that alone makes me already kind of disinterested.
It's a nice idea, but in practice, the fans are the ones who get
Pretty
fucked.
much.
Because AEW gets points, Kenny Omega gets clout, Impact gets viewers, the fans get nothing.
I think Tyler Mask said it best. Kenny Omega should not make this about himself. Also remember, you are the AEW champion. AEW is what you represent. That is where you are assigned. So let's get some storylines going with Kenny Omega very soon. Yeah, I guess it's fun for right now, but if we get a month into it and Kenny Omega isn't really doing shit on AEW Dynamite, then what are we accomplishing here? And that's really what I want to gain from that clip you watched. Also on that show, we saw Shaq. He actually appeared on Dynamite, not like on the actual show. It was a sit-down interview with Brandy Rhodes. A very odd segment. Like, you know, Shaq was basically talking about, oh, you know, I didn't mean anything by my shots at Cody. I was just, you know, kidding around. So I guess that squashes any beef between Cody and Shaq right there. And then Brandy was like, okay, yeah, that's fine. And then as she was getting up to leave, Shaq basically takes a nudge at her, saying that she can learn a thing or two from Jade Cargill. And it leads Brandy to throw a drink in Shaq's face. And Shaq gives this, like, very weird face at the camera at the end of the segment. And that was that. Sting also came out and spoke for the very first time on TNT since 2001. He basically came out, shaded Cody, and hinted at challenging Darby Allin for the TNT Championship very, very soon. And as I said last week and on previous week, Sting versus Darby Allin will happen at some point. The question is when and how do they go about that match? Darby Allin, much more faster, much slimmer, and I don't think Darby Allin is the type to carry a match. Because let's be honest, Sting ain't fucking carrying shit. Sting is carrying his jacket and the bat to the ring. He is not carrying Darby Allin. Darby Allin will have to carry Sting in that match. I don't know how that's going to work. I don't know how it's going to look. But hopefully it's not a terrible match. And also, MJF retained his Dynamite Doesn't Ring against Orange Cassidy. So, as I predicted, MJF is still the Dynamite Doesn't Ring holder. But also talking about some AEW here. Jim Ross, good old JR, was on his Grilling JR podcast and had some choice words for the AEW locker room. He said the following. I told a kid the other day at AEW that everybody does the same fucking spot. All you guys go outside, you cluster up like coils, you stand in there, you huddle, friends and foes together, side by side, so you can catch some leaping idiot going over the top rope who never wins with this move. They're looking for the holy shit chant. They love to hear this is awesome. It's a spot, folks. It's a trapeze act. I don't buy it. That DDT great finish should be used as such. So JR basically went off on the AEW locker room. And let me just say this. JR saying AEW, I mean, he's talking about the company he works for, but it's a general term. Like, literally every fucking company does this. NXT does it. Raw and SmackDown does it. The Indies, that's where it was glorified at, really, the Indies. The Indies do it every chance they can get. You know, Stardom does it. Every wrestling company, and it's not a AEW thing. This is a 2020 thing. This is the evolution of wrestling. Wrestling has evolved into this. You can say it digressed into it, but it evolved into this, where you have to do the spot. It is more so about making moments than it is about putting on great wrestling matches a lot for these talent, I think, nowadays. And I think that's what JR is getting from it. Yes, I can agree with him somewhat. To an extent, it is annoying to see these spots happen where everybody does a dive. Everybody tries to bolster up and try to, catch these guys, and they never win. Yes, I agree. But at the same time, you shouldn't be going out there and burying your fucking talents. JR, if it's his podcast, he can say whatever he wants on his podcast. But goddamn, bro, like, you don't even do this on your podcast. He's done this so many times on Dynamite where he talks about just things like, I can't believe this guy did this, I wish he wouldn't have done that, and this is kind of dumb. Like, JR buries his own people on Dynamite. And then he goes on there and he buries them on his podcast too. Like, damn, JR, if you ain't got nothing nice to say, like I said, it's his podcast. But he is a representative for AEW in their commentary team. If the commentators are burying the talent, then how do you expect the viewers to perceive them? If the lead commentator, the commentator who's been on that booth, who's had the microphone set on for over 30 years, thinks you are a bad wrestler, then guess what? The fans at home will probably believe him and believe you are a bad wrestler. So I'm not saying JR should go out here and lie, but maybe tone it down a bit. Especially if he's on Dynamite. If he's on Dynamite, please don't do that. I'm a little like, JR has annoyed the hell out of me a lot this year with the comments he's led about a lot of the women, the talent. Like, come on, bro. Put the guys over. Don't bury them. That's how I feel about it. This didn't make me mad. This didn't really, I wasn't like, yeah, I totally agree with JR, but I see where he's coming from. At the end of the day, he grew up in a time period where there weren't a lot of dives, and dives were, I would say, didn't really come around until the late 90s, really early O's, and they didn't really get glorified and overused until now. So he's an old head. He's in that back in my day mindset. But ultimately, this is what wrestling is nowadays, and it's not going to change. Maybe as time goes by, this will get phased out, and then the next phase will come in. But until then, this is the way it is. So you can go on your podcast, and you can go on there, you can keep on talking about, how I don't like how AEW does this and da-da-da. But at the end of the day, you work for them. And these guys that you're commentating for, they listen to your podcast. So morale ain't going to be too well if you keep burying your talent. Like I said, I don't think he has to go on his podcast and lie. That's not what I'm implying. But maybe not. Maybe generalize? I don't know. All I know is that if I work for a job, and I do work for a job. Let me get an example here. I work for a job. I'm not going to say where I work because I don't want you guys to know where I work. I work for, example. My first job, I worked at a movie theater. Let's say I work at a movie theater. I don't like their practices. And I didn't. So I quit. But I don't like their practices. So rather than, keep my comments to myself, or make a more general term so it doesn't look like I'm targeting just my movie theater. Make it look like I'm targeting all movie theaters. I go on my podcast, or I wait until the movie's over, and I tell the people who are paying money to watch the movie, I tell them and I talk shit about how the movie theater's being ran. I say this openly during my shift. So all my other coworkers and all of my other managers and supervisors can hear it. Does that sound like a good idea to me? No. I'm not JR. I'm not a tenured worker, so I probably would have got let go. But JR is tenured. Because I bet you this. If JR was not JR and he was Joe Schmo on commentary, he would have got fired. He would have got fired, or he would have got removed from commentary and got buried. But because it's JR, he gets passes. Be honest, we give JR passes because he is one of the greatest of all time. He's had so much of his voice etched in our memories. That's why we give him passes. If this was Excalibur saying the same thing, people would be dragging JR. But it's Jim Ross. You can't touch him. And that's what I'm going to leave it at. Getting off of that, NXT. I didn't watch NXT again. Don't be surprised. But NXT, we talked about earlier in the year that NXT Japan was a thing and COVID kind of ruined the plans, thankfully. But now we're hearing rumors, and not even rumors, more like it's going to happen, of NXT India. NXT India. Something I never even thought of. Now, India, to my knowledge, is the second biggest or most populated country in the world behind China. So they do have wrestlers. They do have talent. I don't know anything about the Indian market or how the style is. I know nothing. If there's Indian strong style, I wouldn't know a damn thing about it. I know nothing about Indian wrestling. But NXT India is set to start taping next month. And we're expected to see an 8-man single elimination tournament starting potentially on January the 26th. To that I say, cool. I because it's different and it's something I've never seen before, I'm more than likely going to watch it. Just to see the talent pool, how Indian wrestling, I'm the type of guy, I have an open mind to everything. Just because the NXT WWE logo is plastered on it, I'm not completely turn it off. Now, if it were NXT Japan, which I'm going to say right now, this is a distraction. This is a red herring. They want you to forget about NXT Japan, but let me not say that too loud or the feds are going to come after me. NXT India is an interesting concept. Now, is it going to do big numbers on the network? I don't think so. Is it going to be the next, the next big thing in 2021? I don't think so. But it's something new. It's something fresh. It's something I've never seen before. I'm sure it's something none of you have ever seen before. Unless you are somebody who's in the demographic of being Indian, Middle Eastern, or Asian. I don't know why anybody from this country probably would have even heard about Indian wrestling. It's not marketed that much in this country, at least. I'm not, let me not say it. Let me not say that nobody in this country has ever heard of it. But people in this country have no interest in watching it. But the NXT banner's on it. So let's see what happens. Now, I already saw comments that, are they going to send, guys from WWE to NXT India to get it over? They could. But what are the chances during the coronavirus, the COVID-19, they're going to send a fucking... Imagine them sending some guy like Matt Riddle to NXT India to get over the talent. It's not happening. They're going to have a big hill to climb with that. But, the only Indian talent I could think of from NXT that they're going to build up is Kavita Devi. Because I need you guys to remember this. And I remember because a lot of you guys probably don't even know this. But Kavita Devi versus Dakota Kai from Man Classic 2017 is one of the most highest viewed videos on WWE's YouTube channel. If you don't believe me, go to WWE's YouTube channel and go to most popular. I don't remember what spot it is in right now. Actually, let's do that right now, live on this goddamn podcast, bro. Because I haven't checked it in the last 2 years. 2 years ago, I know it was like number 6 or number 7. But let's do this. Let's go to WWE. WWE, okay. WWE. Let's go to their YouTube channel. Videos, most popular. Where is it at? So it's fallen since then. It's not really. Ooh, I don't even see it anymore. Hold on. Must go on past 55. Radio. Okay, so the most viewed one is Randy Orton and Triple H from 2. Okay, that makes sense. That was a cool spot. That was a cool storyline. John Cena, AJ Lee, Batista, Rey Mysterio, and Great Khali. So Great Khali already has views over there. Great Khali will definitely appear on the show, by the way. He'll be the person that will probably be the guy they market a lot. Wait a minute, hold on. Where is this? Oh, let me search it up then. Dakota Kai versus Kavita Devi. 58 million views. Okay, so there it is. 58 million views. And I bet you those 50 million views are not from North America. They're probably all from India. Now, mind you, Kavita Devi versus Caitlyn did not get that many views. I got 893,000 views. But this was a great marketing ply for Kavita Devi, who impressed me a lot. I don't think she's that good. I think she has a long way to go. But if they want to, they could easily market that show around her. And I think they will. Beautiful woman, very strong woman. I'm curious about what's to come with this. And I'll definitely be tuning into it. Coming out of NXT India, we get back into some NXT. Former NXT wrestler Keith Lee is being sent back to developmental. Kind of, sort of. So Vince McMahon, apparently lately he's been not amused with the performance of many male wrestlers, singling out guys like Omos, AJ Styles' 7'4" tall bodyguard, Daba Kato, the guy from Raw. Is Raw Underground still a thing? I don't think it is. The guy from Raw Underground that got knocked the hell out by Braun Strowman, buried. Dio Madden, who portrays Mace in Retribution. Otis and Keith Lee were all singled out by Mr. McMahon to be sent back to the Performance Center to train on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Now, this was a hot topic for many people in the wrestling community. Like, how dare they send Keith Lee back to the Performance Center? He's been wrestling for 15 years. He's one of the best wrestlers on the roster. How could they send him back? Now, you'd think this may piss me off, but I don't care. Like, let me just say this. This is Vince McMahon. Vincent Kennedy McMahon. The same man who's behind many of the stupid, outrageous, and dumb decisions WWE has made over the last 15 years. And you guys are surprised that he's sending Keith Lee back to developmental? How does this shock any of you? I'm not saying I saw it coming because I didn't. But this should not shock any of you. Vince McMahon does dumb shit and questionable shit like this all the fucking time. Should Keith Lee be sent back to developmental? No, he shouldn't be. I think Keith Lee's way above that. Keith Lee is world championship material. But obviously, when you look at the trend here, Otis, Dio Madden, Daba Kato, and Omos, he singled out the big wrestlers, the tall wrestlers. I don't know about overweight, but the big wrestlers, he all singled out. He's not amused with their styles. Now, what exactly he wants them to do? Does he want them to slim down? I don't know what that means. But there's something with those big wrestlers that he wants them to work on. I don't know what Keith Lee has to do with it. I don't know what Dio Madden has to do with it. I don't know what Otis, has to do with it. Omos and Daba Kato, I understand. They're definitely green. They came from the development program, I think, a lot too early. Otis, you can make an argument for. Dio Madden, possibly make an argument for him. Keith Lee, I don't see why, but we'll see what comes of it. They're still on TV, to my knowledge, so it's not like they're being sent back to NXT or anything, so whatever. Goldberg, the guy of NXT here. William Goldberg is back in the news. He was on WWE's latest episode of The Bump, and he was asked about the potential of getting back into the ring and wrestling Roman Reigns. And he said this: I would say that it is the most mild understatement that I have ever heard. He backed out on me at WrestleMania, which he did. He stole my move, God knows how long ago, and he continues to perform it at a subpar level. Let's be honest, I'm the dude who delivers a spear, and I don't think that he understands what it's like to underdeliver it. So Roman, it's coming, and I'm coming for you. I may be old, I may be gray, but I'm still Goldberg. And as the rumors say it, rumor has it, they are setting up, or at least propositioning, Goldberg versus Roman Reigns, which was going to happen last year, but Roman Reigns, he pulled out due to COVID. They're setting it up again for WrestleMania 37. And to that I say, wow. This company is so heavily reliant on stars of the past. That is ridiculous. Now, it's interesting because Roman Reigns is now a heel and Goldberg would be the face. But that will lead you to believe that they're building up Goldberg to beat Roman Reigns. And I say that because this year, Goldberg beat The Fiend for the Universal Championship. And I wholly believed that he was going to drop the title to Roman Reigns at WrestleMania. I believe that. I don't think for a second he was going to beat Roman Reigns the same way that he lost to Braun Strowman, who was in Roman Reigns' spot at WrestleMania. I think he was going to lose to Roman Reigns. However, because he's going to be challenging Roman as a champion, there is a good chance that Goldberg gets the title back. Because after all, Goldberg does have 2 matches contractually each year to wrestle for WWE. What the second will be, I have no idea. No idea. Does he have to win the Universal Championship back? Absolutely not. Now, if this is the case, I think that Goldberg, more than likely, is going to win the Royal Rumble, which is going to be disappointing and disgusting. But I won't put it past WWE. I am just so apart, disenfranchised, and just distant from this company that news like this normally would piss me off, but I don't fucking care anymore. I really don't care. If they do Roman Reigns versus Goldberg at WrestleMania, yes, I'm watching WrestleMania because I do every year, but it just makes you groan. But not a lot of news I want to cover this week. This may be a shorter episode of the Chill Pill podcast, but hey, no one's complaining about that, right? We get into the TylerSuplex Wrestling Awards. The Maskies. The Maskies are back. We covered last week some interesting categories in the Chill Spill podcast number 25. Let's go over who won last week. Last week on the Chill Spill podcast, most underrated wrestler of the year went to Yoshihashi. Hidden Gem of the year went to Hiromu Takahashi versus Toriano from New Japan Cup 2020. Best cinematic match of the year went to AJ Styles versus The Undertaker, graveyard match from WrestleMania 36, Night 1. Best television announcer of the year went to Justin Roberts from AEW. Best manager of the year went to Paul Heyman of WWE for managing his role with Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns. Rookie of the year went to John Silver of the Dark Order from AEW. Young Lion of the Year went to Yuya Uemura from New Japan Pro Wrestling fame. Most Improved of the Year went to Saya Kamatani of Stardom and Queen's Quest. Most Consistent Wrestler of the Year went to Kenny Omega. And Fighting Spirit of the Year went to Hangman Adam Page. And this week on the Chill Pill podcast, we continue on, starting off with the most must-see wrestler of the year. This is the wrestler that every time they appeared on my TV, I made sure to tune in for them. Maybe not every single time, but when their name popped up, it was something that I had interest in. And the category nominees are Hiromu Takahashi for New Japan Pro Wrestling, Hangman Adam Page for All Elite Wrestling Dynamite, and Roman Reigns for WWE. And the winner of the most must-see wrestler of 2020 is Hangman Adam Page. Hangman Page, his story arc this year was can't miss television in my opinion. And as somebody who watches Dynamite every single week, it was intriguing. Roman Reigns, I think he probably would have won this category had his storyline started earlier in the year, because I will say his heel stick, it's been great. I've enjoyed it a lot. Hiromu Takahashi, he's been absolutely just great all year long. From Wrestle Kingdom onward, his storylines, his matches, it's just, he's just amazing. That's all I can say about that. Hangman Page, I watched more this year, so he had to get this category for me. Best promo cutter of the year. In this category we have MJF, Jon Moxley, Chris Jericho, Bray Wyatt, Roman Reigns, and Jay White. And winner for best promo cutter of the year is Chris Jericho. Woo! Yeah. So originally the winner was going to be Roman Reigns, but then I realized that Roman Reigns really didn't turn heel till August. So Chris Jericho was here all year round, cutting some of the best promos with some of the best segments. And while I can't say he was the best promo cutter, his segments were by far some of the most funniest, some of the most cunning, and he was in the best storylines. Now, if you wanted to make a case for John Moxley MJF, you would absolutely be right. And even a case for Bray Wyatt and Jay White, you'd be right. But I think Chris Jericho had some of the best TV in wrestling this year. So I got to give the category to him. Feud of the year. In this category we have TV Asahi versus Tyler Kun Williams, Bayley versus Sasha Banks, Edge versus Randy Orton, Roman Reigns versus Jey Uso, Hangman Adam Page versus Kenny Omega, and New Japan Pro Wrestling versus Good Booking. And the winner for Feud of the Year is Hangman Adam Page versus Kenny Omega. Now, you can make a case for Roman Reigns versus Jey Uso. The only reason I wouldn't nominate it, or I did nominate it, but have it win, is because this feud started in September. You can make a case for Edge versus Randy Orton, because they had some of the most compelling promos of the year. The reason why I wouldn't give it to them is because, well, their feud only lasted all of 5 months, and then, COVID, Edge's injury. Bayley versus Sasha Banks, that feud's been going on for multiple years, not really just one. It was good, but I barely watched it. TV Asahi versus Tyler Williams was a very cunning feud, but not a lot of wrestling fans knew about it, so I couldn't nominate it. I couldn't really, award it the category. And New Japan Pro Wrestling versus Good Booking was quite the feud, but not feud of the year. Hangman Adam Page and Kenny Omega's story arc from January to now has just been some of the best pro wrestling television you could watch. From them winning the tag team championships to the descent and the almost break apart that happened in the beginning of the year to them really bringing each other back together, but Hangman Page being almost kind of distant and not knowing his alignments with the Elite, Stadium Stampede, coming out of that, not knowing who would turn between Kenny Omega and Hangman Page, the match at Revolution, the match at All Out, the match at Full Gear. Hangman Page, Kenny Omega were the best part of AEW Dynamite this year. That's just bar none. You can make a case for John Mox as well, but I gotta give it to Omega and Page. Omega and Page, yeah, I said it right. Botchamania over here. Leave me alone. Junior Heavyweight Wrestler of the Year. In this category, we have Hiromu Takahashi of New Japan Pro Wrestling, El Desperado of New Japan Pro Wrestling, Jungle Boy of All Elite Wrestling, Rey Fenix of All Elite Wrestling, Cameron Grimes of WWE NXT, and Kyle O'Reilly of WWE NXT. And the winner for Junior Heavyweight Wrestler of the Year is Hiromu Takahashi. Hey! I mean, come on, you shouldn't have expected otherwise. Hiromu killed it this entire year. And so did everybody else in this category. Jungle Boy probably the least, but not to say he didn't, but, the least effective by everyone else. El Desperado, I thought he had a really good year. Phoenix, I think that he had a really good year as well, even though he got injured like twice this year, so that's why I had to add him out. Cameron Grimes, he had a really good breakout year. I really warmed to him a lot in NXT. Kyle O'Reilly was really the second runner-up here, because Kyle O'Reilly, he opened my eyes a lot this year. I mean, this is a guy who I really only knew as a tag team guy for the Undisputed Era. But from the tag team matches this year to even the singles matches with Finn Balor and Pete Dunne, and even the Fatal 5-Way match on NXT, Kyle O'Reilly really showed me and opened my eyes to just how great of a singles competitor he could be. So there is an argument for Kyle O'Reilly being the best junior heavyweight wrestler of the year. But Hiromu Takahashi carried that junior division. And for that reason, he is the junior heavyweight wrestler of the year. European Wrestler of the Year. In this category, we have Finn Balor, Drew McIntyre, Zack Sabre Jr., Rhea Ripley, Volta, and Pac. And winner of European Wrestler of the Year is Volta. Now, you can make a case that maybe Volta shouldn't be in this category because he hasn't wrestled that many times this year as compared to someone like a Drew McIntyre or a Rhea Ripley or a Finn Balor. But when you have great match after great match after great match, year by year, just match by match, it has to go to Volta. The match with Ilya, the match with Pete Dunne. Like, he just killed it. Now, like I said, you can make a case for Rhea Ripley. You can make a case for Pac. Not really, because Pac was barely here all year. You can make a case for Drew McIntyre. I'm going to give it to Volta because he's awesome. I know. It wasn't the best explanation, but Volta, European Wrestler of the Year. Mexican Wrestler of the Year. In this category, we have Rey Fenix of All Elite Wrestling, Pentagon Jr. of All Elite Wrestling, Thunder Rosa of NWA, Ryu Lee of New Japan Pro Wrestling, and Laredo Kid of AAA. And the winner for Mexican Wrestler of the Year is Thunder Rosa. Thunder Rosa came into AEW representing the NWA as the NWA Women's Champion early in the year with Hikaru Shida. And ever since then, every time she appears on TV, she is killing the game. Not every single match was a barn burner, but her match with Shida, especially her match with Serena Deeb, her match with Britt Baker, she has been on fire. And definitely one of the most captivating parts of AEW's women's division. Well, I would say even more so, the most captivating part of AEW's women's division. Which is sad considered that she's not fully contracted to AEW, and she's the most interesting part. But that just goes to show you just how awesome Thunder Rosa was. Yes, Phoenix, Pentagon, you could say maybe better wrestlers than her. Rhea Lee is a better wrestler than her. Laredo Kid, maybe better wrestler than her. But Thunder Rosa was the sole, I would say, lifeblood outside of Hikaru Shida for AEW's women's division. And for that matter, I believe she deserves Mexican Wrestler of the Year. So congratulations to her. She beat out 4 of the men. Let's go. Japanese Wrestler of the Year. This is going to be an interesting one. In this category, we have Io Shirai, Asuka, both from WWE, NXT for Io, main roster for Asuka, Tetsuya Naito representing New Japan Pro Wrestling, Kota Ibushi representing New Japan Pro Wrestling, Mayu Iwatani representing Stardom, Go Shiozaki representing All Japan, not All Japan, representing Noah, and Shingo Takagi representing New Japan Pro Wrestling. And the winner, almost forgot, Hiromu Takahashi representing New Japan Pro Wrestling as well. He got cut off there. And the winner for Japanese Wrestler of the Year is Shingo Takagi of New Japan Pro Wrestling. I can say all year that Hiromu Takahashi killed it this year, but I would be absolutely slighting Shingo if I said that every single time he was in the ring, he was not holding it down. From New Year Dash and Wrestle Kingdom to goddamn the New Japan Cup, Dominion, G1 Climax, World Tag League, you name it. Shingo Takagi was, I would even say, one of the sole carriers of the heavyweight division for New Japan this year. Take out Naito. Take out Tanahashi. Name a guy who had more consistent matches this year than Shingo. Name one. You can't. Because Shingo did. And I believe that Shingo is the Japanese Wrestler of the Year. And he even beat out Ibushi, who's my favorite. But Shingo, congratulations, buddy. And lastly, US/Canadian Wrestler of the Year. And the category nominees are Jon Moxley of All Elite Wrestling, Daniel Bryan of WWE, MJF of AEW, Kenny Omega of AEW All Elite Wrestling, Kyle O'Reilly of NXT, and Chris Jericho of All Elite Wrestling Dynamite. And the winner for US/Canadian Wrestler of the Year is Kenny Omega. Woo! Yeah. So Kenny Omega, from beginning of the year to end of the year, may not have had a New Japan Epic. He may not have had a 35-minute classic in the Tokyo Dome. But when you think of the body of work that this man has had from January to December, he has been one of the sole reasons why AEW Dynamite was a reason to tune in for match quality wise, work rate wise. He was the work rate guy for AEW this year, if you ask me. Omega versus Beretta, Omega versus Sammy Guevara, Omega versus Pac, Omega and Hangman Page versus the Bucks. Omega and Hangman Page versus FTR. Omega versus John Moxley. Omega versus you name it. Omega was there. He killed it. Kyle O'Reilly killed it. Jericho did his best. He did really good. I think he was more so carrying segments than he did wrestling. MJF killed it. Bryan killed it. And what I saw him in, John Moxley can make an argument for runner-up or even the Wrestler of the Year. But Kenny Omega, US/Canadian Wrestler of the Year, very much deserved. Let's see how many titles he can collect this year. So that was it for this week's category. Next week, we will be skipping out on the Maskies. We'll be getting into the last categories for Wrestler of the Year, Match of the Year, Feud of the Year. All the top categories will be discussed in the final edition of the Chill Spill podcast on December the 30th. So tune in for that. We will resume then. But now we get back into your questions. I asked this time Patreon and my Discord chat some questions. Ask me questions for the podcast. And you guys answered, and here we go. Planes 337. He asked, what is the greatest indie match you've ever witnessed live in attendance? That's a difficult one because I've been to a lot of independent wrestling shows. Like, more than I really can count on my hand. I've been to a lot of independent wrestling shows in the last, 3-4 years. When you ask me the best, it's hard because indie wrestling is a fine thing when you attend, there and now, but it's not something you really remember, years ahead. But when you ask me that question, there were only, 2 matches that I could think of from the top of my head that I remember to this day. And I said 2 because one is the most fun and the other is the best. The most fun independent wrestling match I ever witnessed live was Slim J versus Shane Mercer versus Jake Atlas versus Australian Suicide versus A-Kid versus Jungle Boy in a 6-way scramble from Joey Janela's Spring Break Night 1. Now, overall, Joey Janela's Spring Break Night 1 is, to this day, still one of my favorite shows that I've ever attended. I never had more fun, and I'm not saying experience-wise, great experiences. I never had more fun at a pro wrestling event than I did at Joey Janela's Spring Break Night 1. The atmosphere, the wrestling, all the fun spots, even the death match, and I'm not even a big fan of death matches. Everything about this show just hits. And it hit me hard. It hit greatly. This match right here, it was, if you were into spotty wrestling, you're going to love this match. I recommend it to anybody here. If you like spotty wrestling, if you like all balls to the wall action, watch Slim J versus Shane Mercer versus Jake Atlas versus Australian Suicide versus A-Kid versus Jungle Boy from JJSB 3 and 1. I think you're going to enjoy it. And the best or greatest indie match I've ever witnessed live, which is a match I don't think you can access online because I don't know if it's even available online. Maybe this company has a pivot share, it may be online, but the greatest match I seen live in attendance for an indie show would have to be Chris Bay versus Shotzi Blackheart for the FCW World Heavyweight Championship. And it was from FCW during Double or Nothing weekend last year. I remember because myself, Logan Stunt, when we were friends at least, Logan invited me to the show. Me and my friend Alejandro, we went to the show. And on the card, I still remember some of the card. It was Logan Stunt versus Brian Alvarez. Alley Cat versus Disco Inferno. I don't remember any of the matches aside from the main event. Shotzi Blackheart, who now wrestles for NXT, versus Chris Bay, who now wrestles for Impact Wrestling. These two had, I would say, maybe possibly the best intergender match I've ever seen. It was believable because Shotzi and Chris Bay were basically the same stature. Chris Bay obviously is more buff than Shotzi is. But I could believe it. There weren't any ridiculous spots in here. It was spotty at some points, but the wrestling was good. It went, I think, about 15-20 minutes, and I thought they had a great match. And that's what really opened my eyes to not only just Chris Bay, but Shotzi Blackheart. I had no semblance of who either of those two guys were before that show started. But when the show ended, I followed both of their careers after that. The last independent wrestling show I had attended actually was main evented by Shotzi Blackheart and Jimmy Lloyd. and it was in Philadelphia from, was it this year? I think it might have been this year. Yeah, no. What? Was it this year or was it late last year? Whatever show, you know what? It was late last year because Shotzi Blackheart was in the Rumble this year. So late last year, GCW had a show. I think it was the Halloween show, the Shotzi's Goodbye show, and she main evented against Jimmy Lloyd. I saw that, but before that, Chris Bay versus Shotzi Blackheart is like the greatest indie match I've ever seen live. And I've seen a lot of indie matches live, but that's the one I remember the most. So I got to go with that one. Harrison Postland. If you had a wrestling finisher, what kind of move would it be, and what would you name it? So for those of you who don't know, your boy used to be an E-Feder. Now, if you don't know what an E-Feder is, an E-Fed is a fantasy wrestling league. You go to any wrestling news site. It could be Twitter, Facebook, Reddit, maybe even YouTube. There's an E-Fed somewhere out there. Basically, you have these keyboard warriors online. They all gather up, pretend to be wrestler. They cut either video or written promos online. People judge them. Then you have the booker, quote unquote booker of the show. They write out the matches, or if you're like me, back in 2015 to 2017, I recorded the matches on WWE2K video games. I had my own E-Fed. It was called AWC. In that company of AWC, Tyler Williams, his finisher was the pedigree and the sharpshooter. But I would say it would be my E-Fed finishers, and the name of it was the dick kick pedigree, because the gimmick, I was like a Vince McMahon character. I was the owner. I was the evil heel owner. And the commentator, one of the commentators, used to always nag. Now, the point of commentary for AWC was to commentate. But commentary was not commentary if they didn't spend the entire show burying Tyler Williams. Like, I would say 85% of commentary for AWC was burying Tyler Williams, which I didn't mind because, they were having fun. I didn't really care they were burying me. But they buried me all the fucking time. Now, the one move they got over was the pedigree. And they called it the dick kick pedigree because it looked like my character would kick opponent in the dick before he did it. So the dick kick pedigree and a sharpshooter, I named the Typhoon. So sharpshooter, dick kick pedigree. There you go. That's from Harrison Postland. Space Pegasus 123 asked me two very interesting questions. If you could watch any two current wrestlers shoot fights, who would you pick? New Jack versus Minoru Suzuki. Someone's gonna die. That's all I can say about that. Then he asked me, oh my god, fuck, marry, kill. Jesus Christ. So he asked me five different fuck, marry, kills. So I'm going to answer all here. I'm not going to tell you guys if I will legitimately fuck, marry, kill any of these people just to have you guys stew with your mind in that. But let's continue on with that. Now that you know that. Fuck, marry, kill. Kota Ibushi, Tetsuya Naito, Jay White. I would kill Naito because Naito's kind of scruffy. Not my type. I would fuck Jay White and I would marry Kota Ibushi. And Jay White and Ibushi are my favorites, so I gotta marry Ibushi. Ibushi's my all-time favorite. I gotta marry Ibushi. And we get into the next one: Kenny Omega, Cody, and Hangman Adam Page. Kill Cody, fuck Kenny, and marry Hangman. I'm not gonna give any explanations for these. I'm just gonna roll through them, so that way it doesn't get any more awkward. Zack Sabre Jr., Taichi, and Minoru Suzuki. Kill Suzuki if I can kill Suzuki. He might kill me first. Actually, you know what? I'll kill Suzuki and then I'll fail so that way I don't have to answer the rest of this question. Rey Fenix, Pac, and Pentagon Jr. I'm gonna... But these guys are masked. Fuck Phoenix, maybe? I don't know. Fuck Phoenix, marry Pentagon, and kill Pac. And then the final one... Roman Reigns, Drew McIntyre, and Randy Orton. I'm going to say... Oh my god. This is so awkward and so... I don't even know how to answer this question. Because Roman Reigns, once upon a time... I used to fucking hate Roman Reigns once upon a time. So the fact that he's in a very muck kill and I'm not immediately killing him says a lot. I'm going to say kill Roman. Fuck Randy and marry Drew. But I'm not... I'm only answering this question because it's the 25th episode, by the way. This is the only reason why I'm answering this question. So that's my fuck, marry, kill. Nobody clipped that. And Mason Goldberg, our Patreon backer, gets the top priority here. He asked 4 questions. I'm going to answer them all here. How long-term do you think the AEW Impact partnership will be? It will be as long as Kenny Omega is the AEW champion and Don Callis works for Impact Wrestling. That's how long I think it will go. Now, it could extend out for longer periods. We could see talent exchanges. But as of right now, the only thing we're seeing is Kenny Omega appearing on Impact Television. There's no confirmation that we're going to get any Impact guys on AEW. There's no confirmation we're getting any AEW guys on Impact, aside from Kenny. So, I think it's going to be until Kenny is no longer with Don Callis on Impact. That's how long I see it's going for right now. My opinion may change as time goes on, but I think it's until Don Callis and Kenny are done with Impact. What is the ultimate outcome of this Hangman Page and Dark Order storyline? And furthermore, do you think the long-term plan is to come back to Page and Omega for the title? So first portion, what is the outcome of Hangman Page and Dark Order? I think that Hangman Page will consider joining the Dark Order, but ultimately he will not, and it will revisit the feud between Hangman and Brody Lee when Brody Lee's ready to come back. And it will basically set up another feud for Hangman Page until we're ready to get to Omega and Page, which, yes, I do think the long-term plan is to set up Omega and Page for Double or Nothing 2021, which I do think that Page will be the one to beat Omega. Or if you want to, you can have Omega beat Page at Double or Nothing and then do the rematch at maybe All Out and then have Omega win there. But I do believe that the long-term plan is Omega and Page, and that Hangman Page and Dark Order storyline is basically just a stepping stone. Something for a Page to do, which I'm fine with. I'm not really crazy about it, but I'm fine with it. I'm not crazy about it because it's a storyline we literally saw like months ago, but you need something to do, I guess. And lastly, what should NJPW refocus structure on going forward, since they have yet to establish a true direction post Naito win? You're asking me to fantasy book here. I would have to do a video on that separately. What they should focus on is, maybe possibly having a set focus for your heavyweight championship that doesn't involve Naito and Evil, because they've been building this up for months now. Once the title's off of Ibushi, you've already done Ibushi and White, so leave that alone. You could do Ibushi and Naito rematching at New Beginning, but that's not a feud long term. You could possibly have Ibushi versus some newer guys. Like, I would personally build up some newer guys in that division. You have Shingo, who beat Ibushi in the G1 Climax. You have JY beat Ibushi in the G1 Climax as well. There's some guys. You could have Will Ospreay versus Ibushi. You always come back to that. You have Ibushi versus... You could always do Ibushi versus, I think Ibushi being the champion should be New Japan's opportunity to experiment and start building up guys. And I'm not saying these are guys that are going to be main eventing every single, show, because realistically they're not. New Japan has their crop of guys. It's Evil, it's Okada, it's Naito, it's Tanahashi, it's White. So guys that I'm naming right here, maybe Ibushi versus Goto, maybe Ibushi versus Ishii, maybe Ibushi versus Shingo, or if you want to sort of touch back on Sonata, maybe guys like that will not be main players, and those are guys I think Ibushi will inevitably beat. But I'm going that direction. I think New Japan has a lot of rebuilding to do. They have a lot to figure out. But when Ibushi becomes a champion, this is the time to experiment. They experimented with Evil. I guess you could say it worked, kinda, because he's established as a main player. For how long? I'm guessing long term. You could always do Evil and Ibushi. I'm not crazy about that match, but you could. I don't know, man. I don't know, but they have a lot to figure out. It's not my job to figure it out. It's their job to figure it out. I'm here to watch. I'm here to enjoy. I haven't been enjoying what I've been seeing. I'm just hoping that they can figure it out in the long term. Going forward, at least. I know that technically didn't answer your question, but I technically have to give more thought into that. So, ask me that at a later date. Maybe after Wrestle Kingdom, re-ask me that question. Re-ask me that question after Wrestle Kingdom 15. And guys, that was Chill Spill Podcast, episode number 25, one of the short episodes we've done here. What did you guys think? Comment down below. Let your boy know. I love you guys as always, and I will see you all next week for episode number 26. Peace out, guys.